Welcome back to the Soy Excellence Center and the SEC Dairy Program. My name is John Bonnier, and today we will be talking about milking and milk quality. On the picture you see the family milking the cows or ready to milk. Clean cows, clean floor, clean udders. It's a simple barn, but you see they make every effort to do it properly. And that's what it should be. Milking is very important. Milk quality is important. And we have to do it in the correct way. Here in this chapter, we will talk first about udder development and milk ejection, the physical part, and then about milking equipment and storage, maintenance of the milking machines, which is also a very important part of milking, and then we finally get to the milking procedures, the routines of milking, and milk quality. How can we get the best quality and how can we get a better composition? The last slide will be on the payment systems, which is of course an important part for many farmers. So let's start. Two pictures. The first one on the left of a heifer of 5 months pregnant, so about 20 months old. Udder is just start to develop, and then at the day of calving, the udder further developed and quite nice, strong. Cows, both cows look in fairly good condition, not too fat, and ready to start their first lactation. Now most of the udder development and the shape of the udder is genetic. So in any breeding program, you should look at udder quality of your cows and what a bull can add to that to improve it. But also during the rearing period, it will be good if we pay attention, especially nutrition in this case. Already from the age of 12 months, puberty, we have to make sure that the heifer is developing its body in the right way, but always prevent too much fat. So don't overfeed, just make her tall and strong. Here we look at the structure. We see a left side and a right side separated by a strong ligament which holds the udder also to the body. We have a front and a back, and normally the front quarters are a bit smaller than behind, but that is also depending on breed and quality of the cow. The quarters do not communicate. You can have mastitis in one quarter and 3 others will be fine. So even the thin line between that you can hardly see between front and hindquarters does not pass any bacteria or any problems from one to the other. Then we go down from the teats, and there's a teat canal which is just about 1 centimeter at the end, and that's closed by the sphincter. That's a strong muscle that closes the teat completely, and that's how it prevents any dirt and bacteria and things you don't want to go inside. So a weak sphincter is a problem if you think about mastitis. And you see at the last point here, a frayed appearance. We'll go to see pictures of teats later, and then we come back to that part, but it's something to keep already in mind. Here we have a second one on the udder, on the inside. There we have a cistern in the teat, like a small reservoir. And then we have a cistern in the udder itself, 4 of them. Each quarter has one. And these cisterns are filled through milk ducts, which come all the way from the alveoli. The alveoli is where the milk is formed, There are 2 billions in an udder. It's an enormous number. And through small canals widening, they finally reach the cistern. And when you start milking, this is where it comes from. In the second half of the lactation, the alveoli reduce in number and the milk production goes down. And if your milking system is not so good, it will go even faster. So good milking helps to maintain milk production. How does the milk come out in the end? The alveoli, that's where the milk is formed. They hold the milk, and they should become smaller to press out the milk. Now, how do they become smaller? First of all, this is something the cow must do all by itself through the oxytocin disposal. But first of all, the cow must say, oh yes, it's milking time. I hear the milking parlor already, the sounds there. The udder is prepared by the milker. The first milk is taken out for milk. All that, and some farmers feed concentrate, and then they know, concentrate feeding, that's great, let the milk go. So that works together. And then she will let go of the milk easier by the oxytocin. The oxytocin goes straight to the alveoli, and because of this oxytocin, the alveoli shrink a little and press out the milk. Oxytocin release is normally between 6 and 8 minutes. So that's about the time that you can milk your cow, not much longer than that. And that is important when you attach the milking units, but we'll come to that. This oxytocin is very important, and a cow will release oxytocin when she feels at ease. Stress has completely the opposite effect. Oxytocin stops, adrenaline is produced, and the milk release stops as well. So that is not going to help you. Easy cows. In the picture, you see the flow and the effects from the activity of the milker, the activity in the brain, and the release of the oxytocin. So look at it at ease while we move to the next one. Now we come to udders. If we look, we did already when we talked about breeding type classification. And this picture you see is the total udder score for cows and the percent of removal from a herd. Now, a strong udder, a good udder, is very important, and the removal rate is below 30. That means you don't kill your cows too fast because of the quality of the udder. Poor udders, that they cause a lot of problems. You have mastitis, they're difficult to milk, etc. So you get rid of them much sooner. Now the udder you see below is a real nice square udder. Front, back, correct shape. The height of the udder is nice, just above the hocks. So this is what you, in your breeding program, should aim for. Normally the forequarters are smaller, 30 to 70% in less developed breeds. In high producing and good dairy cows, and with good breeding, you can bring it down to 45, 55, and then 45 for the forwarder. The length of teeth is also something that is scored. For a milking machine, you want teats that are not too long, not too short, right in the middle, 2 to 3 centimeters diameter. The teat cup fits around nicely. They don't fall off, easy to connect. So it makes milking easier. In hand milking, of course, you don't mind if the teats are longer because you want to put your full hand around it. And then you may need more than 6 centimeters, 10 centimeters, 8 centimeters would be easier in that case. But machine milking is nowadays the main milking system. The milking speed is also something farmers look at. You have slow cows milking, you have fast cows milking. In your breeding, you can even look at milking speed from the bull and what it is. What it's basically happening is that the length and the diameter of the teats already have an impact, but the sphincter itself, that muscle, if that's a little bit opener, wider, it goes already faster. But if it's too wide, then it may not close properly, and then you will find that you have more risk of mastitis. So in breeding, look for the best type of udder you can find. Here we'll have some sheets. In the next slide we have a few more with the typical parts of an udder. And on the right of each we see the removal percentage caused by each characteristic of the udder. All of them score best around 6, 7, 8, not just a little bit away from the middle. That's when you have your strongest udders. Here you see the height, a low udder, a weak udder. The ligaments are not very strong. It comes down, and with every lactation it goes down further, and you cannot get your cluster connected unless you crawl underneath it. So you need strong udders, square udders, and the teat placement is also important. You see that the teats slightly bend inward, and when the udder is full, then they come automatically straight down. So on the ones on the left with teats that point outside and are in the outside, that makes milking just more difficult and it's weaker. Those were the udders. Now we look a bit at milking equipment. And hand milking, that's how it started. Here you see the grip in hand milking with the full hand. And you will remember we had this cistern in the teat. Well, you squeeze with one finger and down in that way to press the milk out. Short nails so you don't damage the teat. Enough pressure, but don't overdo it. Stripping was never really recommended as a way to get the milk out. Some milk remains in the udder. That's still left in the alveolars. Don't try to get it all out. Just leave it. It will come the next time. It doesn't do anything wrong. For a milker, when you milk cows, well, some cows may be very nice and quiet, but we were used to tie the hind legs so the cow would not easily kick over the bucket when you're sitting on your stool and the bucket behind your knees or between your knees. So that's just preventive care. And it's also tempting to hang a little bit against the side of the cow, and then there is a risk of getting dirt and hairs in your bucket, and again, lower quality and more risk of bacteria. If you milk the forequarters first, then you have it a little bit easier milking the back quarters. That's the routine approach. Not all farmers may do that. Now, what is the basic of machine milking? We want the sphincter to open, otherwise the milk can't get out. And how do we reach that? By this pressing the milk a little bit down, and it comes down. Besides pressing, and what is now with the machine milking, and what a calf also does, is suckling. Suckling basically means if you suck, you create a vacuum underneath the teat, and then the milk can get out. So the basic of machine milking and milking is based on vacuum and pulsation. Vacuum to get the milk out, pulsation to have a rest period in between the periods that the milk comes out and is sucked out. We'll look at it. Here we have the vacuum pump. Without vacuum pump, you can't milk. And we also see the meter here, the kilopascal. There are other systems as well that can be used, but here it's kilopascal is a vacuum meter, and normally we use about 42 kPa. At 0, there is no vacuum, just environmental pressure. At 100, there is absolute vacuum. So we are somewhere below the middle. Too high vacuum is not healthy for your cows, and if it's not enough, you don't milk either. So this vacuum that we create with the pump goes through the pipes and comes within the cluster underneath the teats and between the liners and the outside of the cups. So that's first the vacuum. And then we need to go to the pulsator, because if we want to keep our teats and others healthy, we cannot just suck it out. Here I already mentioned this 100 kPa and 0. So we can go look at this quickly just on the picture. If a liner is not suitable for the size of the teats, then air can come in and it will fall off, dirt will come in. It's not a very pleasant way of milking your cows. So make sure that you got the right model liners for your cows. There are various models available and cups available, so select carefully. And also make sure there is not so much difference between your cows. If you have a variety of cows with big teats and small teats and long and short, it doesn't work very well. Here we see the pulsation. On the left, A phase, in the schedule, the vacuum is increasing. We have the high vacuum point, that's the milking phase. The vacuum sucks out the milk, and then we need a rest phase. So the vacuum is released, goes down, is down for a little bit, and then we start with the next phase. So 4 phases together, they make 1 pulse, and the pulsator is the machine that makes sure the vacuum is alternating, high and low, high and low. That one should work properly. And you can hear, if you go to the milking parlor, and if you have central pulsators, but you also have pulsators for each unit, and then you would hear this tick, 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 tick. And from the sound already you can hear, is this one a regular one, or is this one going too fast? And you have to make sure that these pulsators work correctly. Here we see again how it works. Not by the vacuum, but here we see actually the vacuum on the left, and the liner inside is opening with increasing vacuum. So the blue is a vacuum, and we see the teat on the top half and vacuum underneath. So milk is coming out. On the right side, the red, we have normal atmosphere. So the liners are being pressed inside again, and they close off the canal in the cup. So no suction, rest for the teat. And that alternates, like I said before, 50 to 60 pulses per minute. Every minute it opens and closes, opens and closes. And that's the sound that you hear. If it's too fast, then you damage your udder, and you can easily recognize that. And if it's too low, it blocks the blood circulation, and it's not good either. So either way, it's not correct. So follow this system. In all milking systems, there's a safety system. The red circle you see shows where it is. It's the vacuum interceptor. So that's to prevent dirt from getting into the pump and damaging your pump. And there is a sanitary trap that stops milk from entering the vacuum factory. So either way, we need to keep the systems separated and clean. So these are just protective systems. And on top of the line, you see the vacuum gouge. There is one near the vacuum pump. There's always one in the parlor itself that you can easily see. So it's important to also look at it. Now we have seen in housing that there are many types of milking parlors and milking machines. But basically it boils down to two systems. Either you have the pipeline and they're standing in a row in the barn to be milked, or you have the milking parlor and the cows come from their barn towards a waiting area. From the waiting area they walk to the milking parlor, and you stand in the parlor and milk the group of cows that come to you. In the pipeline system, you can either work with buckets like you see here in the picture, and then the pulsator is on the bucket itself, and it's only the vacuum that comes from the pipeline. But a more advanced system is already that you have a milk pipeline, and then you get rid of the buckets and the milk goes straight to the milk pipeline, to the tank. Saves you a lot of hard work and backache. The parlor you need if you have more cows to milk. It goes faster, and you can work far more efficient. And of course, in this system, you can milk from 20 cows to 500 cows, depending again on the type of parlor you use. Here again, this pipeline milking system, 3 pictures. One with the bucket, one with a receiver, and from there to the milk pump when you have a milk pipeline. And the last one, you see a milk collection jar. So there you can see from each cow how much milk she's given, and then it goes forward to this receiver and to the tank. Milk measuring has a big advantage because you know exactly what your cow is doing, what she's giving. You can keep records, and you see differences. If from one day to another your cow suddenly gives less milk, you have to wonder what's happening and check her. So this is the basic types of milking. And then in the advanced systems, here we have got a rotary parlor with 30, 40, 80 stands, cows stepping in, making the tour around and stepping out again, and they're milked. And a system like this with so many cows, you can do is basically one person to connect the clusters when they come in, and someone to make sure that the cows are coming to the parlor. So that's very, very labor efficient. If you have to decide on a new parlor or a new milking system, okay, how many cows do I have to milk? What system is suitable? Can I do it with a milking parlor with 2 times 4? Or should I have 2 times 8? Or more than that? Should I have a different machine? But also, there are many good suppliers of milking machines. But what you have to ask yourself, is there a service system? If something breaks down, can I get it repaired? I need to milk in the morning and in the evening. In some places, I even milk 3 times per day. So my milking machine can't stop. If I have 5 cows, I can still manage by hand. But if I have too many, I'm stuck if I can't milk them. So make sure service system is okay. And then there are choices between milking systems. Milking routines and maintenance are just as important as the type of machine that you choose. It has all to function properly. The last one on the equipment. Of course, we have to cool the milk as quickly as possible. If we want to have good quality, preferably it goes straight from the cow to the cooling tank down to 4 degrees. And at that temperature, we don't have any bacteria development. In the Netherlands, the milk is collected only once every 3 days, 2-3 days from the farms to save transport cost. And the milk is of such good quality that that's not a problem. If you have cans for your milk that you deliver to the milk collection center or place, don't leave the cans open, close them, because it will affect the quality of the milk, the taste of the milk. From silage and manure will go in. A cooling tank like this small one here has a double wall, and it's of course made of stainless steel. These things, they last for ages if you maintain them, and it works a bit like a refrigerator. A cooling fluid is going through and kept cool. The agitator, that's what you see in the middle hanging from the cover, is turning around, turning the milk so the fat will not come to the top, and it stays away from the wall, because if you refrigerate, it's very cool. On the wall, it may be even freezing. So it's good to have this agitator there. But you need electricity. And in many countries, electricity supply is not always as reliable as we would like to have it. So you may be needing a generator to make sure that you can cool it down. You can nowadays use solar systems that give you help. There is quite a bit of development, especially from India also, where they come with systems that need electricity for a few hours per day, and then they can manage to keep the milk cool throughout the day. So look at your situation and what you need, what size you need, and what it takes to keep the milk cool. Maintenance, yes. If we want to clean, we need first of all good water, clean water, and hot water. And we need a detergent. Now, acidic and alkaline products acid products we don't use every day because it would damage the material if it's too acid. But once every week, every 2 weeks, a good cleaning with acidity, and then the alkaline products you do on a daily basis. And then before you start milking, always check the vacuum level. Make sure it's really the right level. Look at anything which is unusual, which is not correct. Listen to your pulsators if there's anything that should be changed, and do it before you start milking. Spare parts are important to have for all these little things, and even when the service is a little bit less, that means you need more spare parts. If your vacuum pump breaks down, okay, then have another one ready and switch and then repair the other one later. So you have to prepare for everything that you really need to continue milking. Manual milking, or cleaning. Everything that comes into contact with milk must be cleaned. And that means also for the one who's doing the hand milking, the buckets, whatever else you use for milking, clean it. Clean it hot. Clean it long enough. Brushes for real cleaning. And detergents to really get the fat off and everything clean. It's like we wash our dishes at home. We also use the same ingredients to make sure we have a clean dish to eat from. It is good to make protocols, especially if more people are working on a farm and different people go around. If you have a protocol, then you can say, this is what we do and this is the standard. Step 1, just with low pressure, clean the outside of the parlor and clean the clusters and everything. Once that's been cleaned, clusters go back in the jetters, and then you really start your cleaning of the milking parlor. The pipes, the milking pipes, pre-rinsing to get the first remaining milk out, and then have a first cleaning. And then you circulate for 7-8 minutes with the detergent and hot water. So then it's really clean. And then at the end, with cold water, you rinse and get also the detergents out. And you don't want them to come out in your tank or what happened. So 3 steps to get a good cleaning. And that's a daily, every milking you do that. Here 2 more schedules for the week, for the months or periodical. Look for yourself what you need to be done and try to implement it. The picture of the milking trolley with the mark behind it. We've seen many trolleys on smaller farms, and we've also seen that vacuum and pulsation and maintenance are not as good as they should be. Farmers use it, but they're not always aware of what they really need to do to maintain it properly. And the service for this kind of little machines is limited. So as a farmer, and you use one, make sure that you know how to maintain it and do it. Once a year for the bigger farms and the parlors, it's good to bring a specialist in to have every part of your milking machine tested properly. This is something they have the equipment to do it in a way that you can't do it yourself in the same way. So let them do it and be sure that after 10 years, your milking machine is still working as it did on the first day. Now we move to milking routines. You see a picture with a very dirty cow and very clean teats. If you have clean cows, And basically that's what you should aim for in your housing system, to keep your cows clean bedding, clean environment. Then it saves you a lot of headache and worry during the milking time, and that's several times per day. You can remember that. With a clean cow, dry cleaning with a paper towel is enough. That's very simple, very fast, very easy. The moment you have dirty cows and you need water, then you have two options. You can wash the whole cow, like here, and then you know for sure that the water will be remaining on the cow. The dirt will stream from the sides down to the udder and into the cluster, the pipeline. So then it's safer to just clean the teats and leave the dirt when it's dry and sticky on the cow and don't touch it so it won't come down. But of course, that's only the second option. If you wash, then use a disposable wipe, disinfected wipe, or pre-dip instead of using the same towel and a dry towel. Teats must be dry before you connect the cluster. Then a pre-dip needs 30 seconds to be effective. So you have to do your timing properly. If you don't do it properly, and that's why it's in blue here, you can do a lot of damage to your milk quality and to your udders. Now, the general routine. We stimulate half a minute. Most wouldn't be enough for stimulation and cleaning. Then we take some milk out of each teat and see if it's good. Then we pre-dip as prevention. It's at least recommended to do so. And then when all that's finished, you should be able to attach the cluster between 1 minute to 1.5 minutes. Don't wait longer than that, because think about the oxytocin that already started going through the alveoli and starts releasing the milk and only works for 6 to 8 minutes. When you've got attached the cluster, make sure they are aligned, the lines and the tubes are all hanging in the same nice, relaxed way, straight. Don't over milk. Blind milking is terrible for the teats and the quality of the udder. So make sure that doesn't happen, and we'll look at how you can prevent that. Machine stripping was done in the past, but meanwhile we all know that there's no need for that. A bit of milk left in the udder does not harm. And before you remove the unit, shut the vacuum, and then vacuum stops and it's easy to remove them. And then dip again after the milking. This is the routine. This is, again, to be in a protocol, so every milker knows what to do and how to do it. In the picture, you see that here the udders are quickly burned very carefully, so the hairs disappear. Hairs again hold dirt, hairs hold bacteria, so a clean udder without too much hair gives you better milk quality. And that also goes for clipping tails and shaving udders. Anyway, to make sure you get top quality. In a parlor, we have 10, 15, 12 cows lined up on one side and the same on the other side. If you do all cows from the beginning till the end and you prepare, you clean the teats and you take the strips, and then finally you go back to do the pre-dipping and then to attach, you can never reach this 60, 90 seconds before attachment. So don't do more than 3-4 cows at a time. And then follow the routines here. Strip, clean, pre-dip, and then you can go to the next cow and the other one and the other one. And then go back to the first one, clean the teat again, wipe it off, and attach the milking unit. That should not take you more than a minute and a half. And then you can have 4 cows attached and milking, and then you take the next 3 or 4. So, and in between, keep checking. You see in the picture on the right, a milking unit that is aligned very nicely, all hanging straight under the other. The lines are all going in the same direction. And here on the other one, on the left, you see there's pulling and squeezing and turning, and you don't milk like that. So all these things to keep in practice. Blind milking, we already talked about it and mentioned it. If you look at the teat on the picture, purple, and I've seen them like that. There are several reasons why it can happen. Milking too long is one of them. Vacuum too strong. Pulsator not correct. Okay, then the liners getting old. Most of it is too long milking, and then strong vacuum that does most of the damage. But this is, if you see that, then immediately take action and ensure that the milking equipment is working correct. Now, blind milking occurs when there's only 0.2 liters coming out per minute. That's a very little. So you have end of milking indicators. When the milk is less than this 0.2, they give a sign to remove the milking equipment. Automatic removal is even easier, because then you don't have to look around. You can just continue with your milk, and the pulsator stops. The vacuum is cut up. Teat cups are detached, and they remain hanging on a level. Still, it's good to check if everything is okay, but this is some help. And if you don't have it, you have to make sure that you look yourself correctly. Now, you see one blue teat. Here we see more teats, and what can be possible. These are the teats, 4 different types, which are considered not good, and you have to check. You can read this quietly for yourself, what is the possible cause and what you may have to do to avoid it. Meanwhile, we also look at the teat ends. On the left top, that's what a teat should like, very smooth at the bottom, smooth everywhere. The one that followed is already still smooth, but already a little bit coming out from all the milking. But what we see on the right, that's what we really have to avoid, especially the one at the bottom. You see the very rough teat end. Well, that's asking for problems, mastitis problems, and here this is a result of poor milking management system. I already mentioned that if you have more people, you need protocols. And protocol is not only to say how you should milk, the sequence that we just look at, and how to do, but also to keep the records on cows that maybe have been treated with for mastitis, And if by accident they enter the milking parlor, if you don't milk them separately, then the milker should know, oh, this one, the milk should be rejected. I have to not let it get into the tank, but away. You can put a tie rib or a collar around the leg, so it's easy for every milker to say, this the red one don't milk, has to be dried off, or this one has to be treated. Make sure that it's all clear for everyone who works in the milking parlor. Now, finally, we get to milk quality and composition. First, biological quality. We milk, and the milk is 37 degrees when it comes out, free of microorganisms if it's a healthy udder. And it's also the right place for microorganisms to grow. Like I said in the blog, what is optimal? Warm, wet, and plenty of food. Milk at room temperature. And they multiply every 30 minutes. So in the beginning, if you have 5,000, okay, then 5 times 5,000 and it goes up. But after a few hours, you already start with millions. So that's why you need this cooling so quick. First, you try to control that there are not so many bacteria. So when the milk leaves the udder, make sure there is good hygiene at all stages that milk is handled. And the maximum time allowable between production and processing, well, of course, if you have very clean milk to start with, you have a little bit more time. But if you cool the milk with little bacteria, it's easy enough to wait 3 days before you collect it, because the milk will still be the same quality. So start good and maintain it good. It only goes down after milking. Well, and what about milk quality again? You want fresh milk. And that is tested very often in milk collection centers by the alcohol test, but there are also more sophisticated tests that take a bit more time, but are more precise. We also don't want any sick-making pathogens in the milk. So mastitis is a big trouble maker for milk quality. But we also have diseases like tuberculosis, brucellosis, etc., the whole list, that can also go to the milk and even find a way to people. So you don't want, that's the risk of drinking raw milk. Anything can still be in it. And we want it just clean. Like you see here, the milk is coming on this little screen before it goes into the tank, and all the rubbish that is caught here is far more than you want to see. Now, what should not be in milk? First of all, no dirt. Clean cows, clean working. No bacteria. Somatic cells. We mentioned somatic cells when we talked about animal health and mastitis and the effects. We still look at that again. Detergents, soap, chemicals, alkaline. When we clean our systems, it's very easy that if we don't rinse at the end, that some of it enters your milk tank, and that will, if the dairy plant is testing, they will also find that these things are there, and that milk will be rejected. Well, that goes in the same test. The antibiotics. It's very tempting to add a bit of water. Volume increases, and if you're paid a flat rate for your milk and nobody pays for fat content or protein levels, then a bit of water is easy money, but it's not what you should do. Here you see the Lactoscan. That's a simple testing machine made in Bulgaria. This was a test here. Fat, protein, lactose. Well, here you see a protein level of 259, solids of 692, water 16%. This is milk that I would refuse if I saw it coming in. And the bottom one, this is a machine for bacteria testing, and you see the machine on one side and the glass to look through because it's all tiny, and you can count the colonies of bacteria and either reject or accept your milk based on this quality. Now, there are many places where bacteria can enter the milk, and we have some nice pictures that tell you more than words. So look at it. But we went too fast because first we started the cow. Okay, dirty cow, open teat kennel. That's the first step. Our milking equipment, our cleaning systems, brushes and clothes that are used too many times, no detergents used. It gets so easily distributed. And then again, after the cow and the milking, we go to the tanks and the hoses that it goes through and the freezers. At a place like this, if some milk is remaining and we don't clean it properly, bacteria will develop very fast. Well, the inhibitors, the antibiotics, the chemicals, the detergents, they are a danger for people. You don't want to consume antibiotics if you don't have to. For the cheesemakers, fermentation process doesn't work, so you can't make cheese when the milk has got antibiotics. And you sometimes see that if by mistake it enters the milk and the milk is collected with a big truck and a whole container is found antibiotics, that whole container of maybe 5,000 liters has to be rejected, and that's a big cost. And if as a farmer you're responsible for that, it's a heavy debt. Here you see the cow being injected for mastitis treatment. So residues, avoid them. And if you use antibiotics, read the prescription and how many days you're not allowed to use that milk, to sell that milk after you stop treatment. The somatic cells. This is what we saw before in the animal health part. How much percent is lost? With 1.6 million, 10% of your milk is lost. And even at 200,000, you have your first losses. The official somatic cell admittance was up to 400,000, but there is no farmer that will allow his cows to reach that stage. Even 200,000, they don't want. 50,000 is what's achievable, and even less, and that's what you should aim for. We read here the effect of somatic cells, shelf life, quality of the milk and the milk proteins, cheese yields. In Holland, we make a lot of cheese, and they don't want somatic cells in the milk and use more milk for the same kilo of cheese. Even some cheesemakers don't allow their farms to feed silage just because they want to have the highest quality of cheese. So somatic cells, keep them low. A last one on producing quality milk. We list what we discussed before, and to prevent mastitis and produce good milk, clean, right procedures, that includes teat dipping, treat clinical mastitis and subclinical mastitis as early as possible to keep a control of it, maintenance, and drying off, treat your cows either with an antibiotic if necessary or by sealing the teats, and cull chronic non-responding cows because they remain a problem in your barn. So this was about milking quality. Now we look at milk composition. We have two major groups, the ones that are not related to feeding and factors that are related to feeding. Some we control, some are natural. We'll take them one by one in the next slides. Now, it's at the beginning, after calving, lactose, fat, protein, they're all very high. That's also because in the colostrum, it's very dense, and that's what you need. That's what the calf needs. And then in the first week, when the milk production starts increasing quite rapidly and goes on till you reach the peak, basically the milk is diluted. You have more liters, but you can't keep up the fat and the protein contents and the lactose contents at the same level. Then after the peak, there is a better balance again between quantity and composition. Now, so here you see this is a natural procedure. If you measure this, you know it's fine, it's normal. And then this, when you have this metabolic disease, you then suddenly see that the situation completely changes. Older cows have less fat and less protein in the milk because their yields usually get higher, and there are more other problems that have already passed through their system. So that has a bit of influence on the milk composition. And in the first lactation cows, they have a higher persistency. So they peak lower, but their milk remains more stable, which is nice. What we see in the picture is the effect of season and not of age. In summer, we'll see that fat and protein drop. And so you have to look at the climatic conditions in your own place and your own country to see if this January, December effect is still similar or differs from your place. But that's also a very normal happening. Genetics also have a big influence on composition. If you're in the United States, they were breeding for a lot of milk and they didn't care too much about protein levels and fat levels. Here in Holland, cheese-making country, we need much fat and much protein because then we need less kilos of milk to make a good cheese. So depending on where you are and what you do with the milk, the demands will be different. Nowadays, protein becomes far more important than fat because nobody wants to have too much fat anymore. But more milk also means lower contents of fat and protein, like we just saw in this peak lactation, top of the milk, but the lowest in the contents because it's just diluted a bit. You select your bull according to what you need and what you want to achieve with your cows, and then have the long-term view to go where you want. there is quite a strong influence on genetics for milk composition. And finally, nutrition and feeding management. We have always said that the rumen is what we feed. We have to keep this rumen pH at a correct level, 6 to 6.5, not too much fluctuation. The microbes should be feeling very comfortable, and then they can use the energy, the protein, the minerals, and everything to ferment and to produce the energy for the cow. So that's one thing we can do. And then we want to keep the conditions for eating for the cow as good as possible. We went through all that earlier, talking about housing and feeding. Let the cows eat relaxed and always feed available. And then body condition, don't feed more than the cow needs. So she won't get fat, she won't get skinny, she's just in the right condition. There's a whole list of what we can do to do it properly. Overcrowding, competition, selection, infrequent feeding, those is the feeding management. Remove spoiled feeds, provide shade when needed, ventilation. All these little points help. And if you earn 5% better in each of those points, it adds up and you will reach 25% better in the total result. I promise you a last slide being payment systems. Usually the milk price is based on volume, how many kilos, and per kilo, what is the composition, fat and protein. And then the prices may differ. Protein prices are normally higher in the calculation than those for fat, but like I said, it's the end use of the dairy company that decides what they want to pay for. That's the first step. That's the big price. And then you can earn extra money by having a good quality. And that's acidity, bacteria, somatic cells, freezing point, antibiotics, mycotoxins. It depends again on the dairy company. Are they willing to pay for all these criteria? And how much does that add to your basic milk price? What is worse is that if you get a flat price per kilo, okay, your milk, you have milk with 4% fat and 3.5% protein, and your neighbor has 3.5% fat and 3% or not even protein, and he gets the same price as you get. That doesn't stimulate you to improve the quality. Not at all. So this is a system that we really have to address also for smaller farms, that they are paid according to quality. I've seen that, I was involved in a project in Indonesia where we had 5,000 farmers, and they had large groups all receiving the same. And then we started intensifying milk testing and making the group smaller and giving information to the farmers and say, look, your milk is this, your milk is that, your milk is that. And they look at each other and say, hey, my friend, I'm losing money because you don't get a better quality. So do something about it. It took a number of years to get the group smaller and smaller. Finally, every farmer was basically paid individual, and that had a very positive effect on milk quality. So the dairy company was very happy with the result. Milk quality testing equipment. For milk collection centers, you need a cheaper equipment because you can't afford it. But then basically, and in the dairy plants, you have the big milk testers for milk quality, composition, and everything else. Bactoscans, somatic cells. So there is a price. A tester, here you see the top picture. Some milk testing equipment in a fairly new milk collection center. You see the alcohol test on the left below. You see a quick Delvo type of test for antibiotics and a refractometer to check for added water. All these tests are useful either for acceptance of the milk or for payment systems. But without testing, we cannot reach good quality and we never get the right price. So this was what I wanted to tell you about milking and milk. The last picture is a very nice, clean milking parlor, very smooth floor. I like that's what it should look like when the cows are out again and before they come back. I hope this chapter 8 has been useful to you, and we'll meet again with the next chapter about kalvering. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.